Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're going to give our first impressions of Number Drop from AEG. Wow, nice. Nicely done.
Nicely done.
That was great. So, this is essentially Tetris, the board game. That's all you got to know.
That's all you got to know.
It's kind of Tetris, and it's kind of just a Tetris, whole different game.
But you are limited because you have to, there's some changes. You have to drop them straight down in this one.
No moving it over the last second.
And that's like
the big thing.
That's how you get to the next level and become a pro player like myself, is you learn how to move these things around when they seem impossible to move. It's like, oh, that nook, you can't get in there. I can get in there. I can get in that nook. But you can't do that in this one.
No.
And it's, first off, it's like, it's just really going to be that great, but it adds, I guess, I don't know, what would you call it? Just kind of the creation of set collection.
Set collection, probably.
Type of thing. Mm-hmm. Sets building. You roll the dice.
Yep. So it's a roll and write.
It's a roll and write, yep.
And if you want to check out some of the components, we have an unboxing video with this as well, so you can check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a roll and write.
You roll the dice, and some of the dice, 4 of the dice are numbers, and the other die is a bunch of shapes, which each have 4 blocks in the shapes, and you have to create that shape and drop it into your board, and then
straight down, pretty much.
Straight down, and you have to write those numbers in the boxes that shape takes up.
Yes.
So,
but you don't actually draw like a line around the shape.
Yeah.
So if it was a square and you had like 6, 7, so there's not a normal 6-sided die. No. It's got, I don't know what the numbers are actually, but just some random numbers and wilds. Yeah. But
I think they go
2, 3, 6, 7. You'd have to put those numbers some way to form a square of those numbers.
Yes. So then from there, so you're just kind of creating this board of numbers, and then once per turn you can circle a group of numbers that is either a set of the same number, ranging from a set of 3 up to 7, or you can circle numbers that create a consecutive line of ascending numbers, ascending or descending, it's the same. And that as well can be a group of 3 to 7, and then when you do that, you circle, it has on the right side of your board an option for each of those. You circle whichever one you just claimed, and you will earn that many victory points for the size of the set at the end of the game, and you can't claim that same type again later.
Right. Yep.
And
then you can also do an 8 of either one.
Yes, you can do an 8 of either one time, yes. And then you kind of collect a 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of like one type, so of either the sets of the same number or the runs of those. If you get all of those filled out and claimed, then you get a bonus 10 points. So that's kind of the goal of the game, is to do that. You also get points for filling in complete rows, which is kind of similar to Tetris. Instead of removing them, you're gaining victory points, so you do not want any gaps in there. And
the second you put something's hanging over a space, that space is any space below that's dead.
Yes, because you cannot slide anything in there. Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, okay, and then I'll fill this in and fill this in later. I'm like, and I get up there and I'm like, I can't fill that in because that is overhanging.
Yes.
So it's
a different.
It is.
If you played Tetris, you have to think about it differently because usually you think, well, that's not dead. But in this case, it is.
It is.
So you got to remember that when you're adding the shapes.
Yeah, and with what the die rolls, I feel like it could be really good or really bad. Like if you start off with a little S shape, a little zigzag, you're gonna have an overhang on the first shape of the game. Luckily, there's a wild in the number dice as well as the shape dice, so it can possibly give you choices. But it is a different puzzle. It is a different puzzle.
It is a totally different puzzle than Tetris. And then kind of another thing is if you were to complete 2 of the same number of each of those different types of the run and the set of numbers. So if you did a set of 4 of the same number and then you did a run of 4 consecutive numbers, if you did both of those, then you activate a certain letter which is going to be the next time a wild is rolled on any of the dice.
Yep.
Everyone that has not activated that will have to draw a certain shape, and it'll have X's in it, so it'll just be dead.
Yeah, so...
But it will fill in spots.
So yeah, you're getting that, and just cursing everyone else, maybe blessing them if
it's a good shape.
If they're not really building
it.
towards any sets or anything at the moment, and that shape really fills out their board, it could be a blessing. But most of the time, it is going to be tough because they're pretty big shapes. They can be pretty big shapes. It's kind of random. It could be the normal shapes, or it could be pretty big shapes, and they worked out pretty well for me. I didn't have too bad of a time, but I was more cursed with the squares that we then started rolling near the end of the game, which just really messed up my board. So I actually would much prefer the rest. I was thinking, I'm immune because I have like both of my sets of 5s completed. But the one that would drop, if that's rolled, I'm like, I actually would like that one to fill in 2 rows and like freaking board. And I'm like, I'd rather have that than anything that we'd roll with the regular die. But so I'm like, can I choose to take it? Can I opt in to this negative benefit?
Right.
So that's kind of a weird balance. It's like, it's not that bad.
Then you don't get anything.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps you avoid being the trigger of the end game. There's a line that says game over, and then you get -5 points if you have anything on those. There's 3 possible lines you can fill up to. So if you unfortunately had to take something that was going to fill up, I guess that's the only possible negative thing if you're taking more numbers than someone else. I don't know. But otherwise, the person that or anyone that's had it activated does not get to draw anything in that one.
Yeah.
From my understanding. So, it's definitely a different game. It's thinking outside the box a little bit, I think. There's I didn't know what to think when I first was, looking at the game a little bit more.
Cash grab, Tetris knockoff, looking at it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if this one's going to be kind of not 100% my style, but after at least that one play that we've had, I thought it was better than I had kind of expected. But it's probably not one of my top tier roll and write games for me. But I would play it every now and then. It's definitely, different thinking. But it's got some interesting pieces to it. I think there is something interesting about kind of drawing these shapes, but they're not actually shapes yet.
Yeah.
And you can draw new shapes out of those, or shapes out of those numbers, depending on the sets that you get. So there's something cool about that.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a couple things in there that I'm just like, not 100% sold on. It just, like if there was some way to slide it, but I do get too that maybe that just doesn't work that easy then. And it's just easier to explain. Nope, you can only kind of just bring it straight down somewhere on one of the... Maybe that's just the easiest way to explain it and not have like edge cases of, we're trying to slide this under here, and can I, take a L shape and slide it over into 2 spaces or something. So I don't know.
I think the only way you could do it is, obviously, I think most of the time you could just visualize it, but there would be edge cases, and then I think maybe if they had just like little plastic transparent pieces with all the shapes, because I think there's only like 10 shapes, so you would need quite a few, but unless you pass them all around, otherwise it'd be 60 little shapes that you'd have to do, but I'm like, maybe then you could just like track it and see if you can do it, maybe, I don't know, but that would just be more complicated, so like I said, I get why it's done, but I did enjoy it quite a bit, probably coming in at, I'll say, an 8.25.
Oh, wow.
I did this one quite a bit, just like you said, you're dropping the shapes, and then they just disappear into this sea of numbers that you've created, and you're trying to create paths and groups within those. I just found that really interesting, and once you can't claim the same exact set more than once, so you have to set yourself up. It's like, I can start building towards another run here, and I'm like, I had like a 4 and a 5 run already filled. I'm like, well, either I get the small run, or I have to go all the way up to 6. I'm like, I really should have prioritized my sets of identical numbers instead, and just really trying to balance that and trying to make do with the numbers that you get.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to not mess up your board, but you also want to get the numbers that work together. I found that interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm probably currently coming in at a 6.75, but I want to play this one a couple more times and see what my thoughts are. It could go up a little bit more. Otherwise, I think it would probably sit about where it is, maybe go down a little bit if, just depending on how a few more games played out. If it just, I could see this one feeling different from play to play, just depending on how the dice roll. Obviously, everyone's playing with the same stuff, so it's not like, oh, I roll and I get a really good roll of all the wilds, and the next person would roll their own or something like that and roll crappy ones. So it is like we're all playing the same numbers, so it's not like it's someone would have an advantage in that way in any way. It kind of depends how you build your board too, because I know Zachary had like one column not done on the end, and that straight piece shape just would not get rolled. So he ended the game with, I think, like one on the bottom, and then like maybe one or two on the top when he had to force a shape in there. So he only had a potential of completing like 3 rows in the whole thing. So yeah, it kind of depends a little bit, but yeah, I'm looking forward to trying this one a few more times and see what my thoughts are after a few more plays. Any other thoughts on this one?
No other thoughts.
No other thoughts. We'll say it's a little blah looking. It's white.
Yeah, I mean,
very white.
It is very white.
The dice have some.
Yeah, I like the dice and the little tokens, little plastic bits that you have for the special shapes that you can get, and overall, for a roll and write, I think it's pretty with the style that it goes for.
Yeah, it's kind of going for its own
kind of retro-y
style. So I don't know if it would have looked better on a black background or white. I'm not sure. Maybe not. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it would have. Be interesting to see that. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't work. But
how would you draw that on black?
And they're gonna have to give us white
pencil.
That's true. That's a good point. I don't know how they would do it. They'd have to give us something great.
Little chalkboards that you draw on.
Have to give us like light neon blue pens or something. I don't know.
Or pink. That'd be cool.
Deluxe
edition.
Deluxe edition. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our unboxing video of this one. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.